this from the media. I can't have this up here.
From Southwest Florida, as our DEO secretary has something in his hand that we may be announcing here in a minute. We've got the county council members here from Bonita Springs. We've got, I think, a lot of the Board of County Commissioners as well. And then we have Sheriff Carmine Marceno, so I want to thank him for being here. We've been able to, over the last particularly couple months, really help with some key infrastructure projects, both in terms of things, what we're doing with our Job Growth Grant Fund, but also some of the long-term recovery money that's come in over the years to Florida in the advent of, in the Panhandle, Hurricane Michael, but then the rest of the state, Hurricane Irma. And we go back, that was a really big storm. Lee County, of course, and Southwest Florida generally had major impacts from there. And so Dane, I told him, I said, you know, we really want to do things that are going to be meaningful. So let's figure out what funds we're still eligible for. Let's get the money out and let's do it. So today we're really excited because we're able to make an impact here in Bonita Springs. And so this is through the Department of Economic Opportunities Community Development Block Grant Program. We're going to be able to award $16.8 million to Bonita Springs to improve 2.5 miles of stormwater infrastructure along Terry Street. And this project will repair system damage caused when Irma brought, I think it was several feet of standing water in the area back in September of 2017. And so these improvements with this money will help reduce future flood damage. It'll ensure first responders can access residents in need during a storm, and will make sure the health of the Imperial River here in Bonita Springs does not severely degrade after a storm. Additionally, this funding will help construct a safe multi-youth path connecting residents with schools, churches, and community areas. So we're gonna hand this. We'll officially give it to the, I don't know who in the city wants to come up and do the photo, but we actually okay. So actually have the check. Almost 17 million bucks.
All right, hey, look at, there's a public works director, Matt Feeney back there. He's smiling. Hey, man.
All right, well, the check is in the mail, so congratulations.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah, you
Governor.
take it, yep. And so this is just one of many things we're going to be doing. We have other stuff that we're going to be able to do over the coming weeks. And then we just kicked off yesterday Florida's 2022 legislative session. There's a lot of things on the agenda, but one of the things I think that's really exciting is if you look at the fiscal outlook for the state of Florida, and we may have never been in a better position in terms of the amount of surplus revenue. If you look at unallocated general revenue, our budget stabilization fund, all these other things, we're in a position where we're going to continue to be able to meet leads like this. And one of the ways we're going to do that is through continued funding of the Job Growth Grant Fund that we've been using in the state of Florida. This was something that I actually had to veto when COVID first hit, because we didn't know when that budget hit my desk. We didn't necessarily know how far in the hole we'd be or whatnot, and I had confidence we'd be able to recover quickly, but you just didn't know. So I actually had to veto this. So we did get that in this current year's budget. We've been able to make huge differences in terms of providing money for infrastructure and for job training. I mean, we've put in for programs for truck driving, diesel mechanics, all these things you hear about that are in so high demand. We're able to identify, people can submit, and then we can go and make an impact immediately. So we're asking in this legislative session to increase the money to $100 million that we have for the Job Growth Grant Fund, and I'm confident that that'll be things that'll be really, really high impact. I mean, there's different things that different communities do Some of them have an ability to do certain things. Some of them can do most of it, but maybe need us to come in and help to get them over the hump. And so there's been a whole range of ways where we've been really able to make a huge difference. So that is going to be a priority of ours in the upcoming legislative session, and continuing to make sure that we're doing what we need to be doing with infrastructure in a variety of ways. I mean, this is stormwater and making sure that we're resilient in the face of storms, but then you also have, you know, the traditional roads, bridges that are important because the state is growing. So we look forward to having a good couple of months up there in Tallahassee, and I think everybody's really excited about being able to get an awful lot done. So, but in the meantime, I'm happy to be here with Secretary Eagle and with the members of the council and the commission to be able to deliver almost $17 million for a very worthwhile project. So Dane, you want to come up and say a few things?
Yeah, thank you all. It's good to be back in Southwest Florida. I want to thank the governor for his commitment to the area and all of Florida, especially when it comes to hurricane resiliency. At DEO, we have the Office of Long-Term Resiliency, and we come and we look for the areas of last resort that really need the assistance to rebuild from storms. So we're talking about Hurricane Irma. That was in 2017. I was at the EOC with many of the people behind us, riding out the storm. We come out on the other side, and Bonita Springs was one of the harder hit areas when it came to flooding. Feet of water standing for weeks. And this award is going to help them complete that project to make sure that that is a thing of the past. And we're going to be doing more across the state, so we're excited about those opportunities. But really thank the governor for his commitment and the locals for working on this. You know, when these awards come in, they've got to score out independently. We can't just pick them out of a pot and say, let's do this one. So we're glad to see this come out on the other end. And the governor is very excited to be here today, and I'm glad to tag along. Thank you all for the opportunity.
Okay. All right, we have County Commissioner Ray Sandelli.
Well, good morning. Not a better way to start a day, another beautiful Florida day. I would like to extend my welcome and appreciation to our governor. Thank you for your continuing service to our country. To Dane Eagle, who's been a friend and a mentor for me for quite a while, thank you. I'm glad to hear that Brooke and your son are doing well. To our elected officials, our first responders, and our many neighbors who contribute and serve this community every day, thank you very much. My wife and I moved to Bonita Springs about 10 years ago for a variety of reasons. We are thankful for that every day. Locally, we have a great cooperative and candid working relationship with many of the key players here within Bonita and statewide. We dedicated a beautiful new library. We worked through the transition of the old library to a monoclonal distribution center, which is still up and operating. We created a great environment on Old 41, very unique, and that touch of old Florida, which is so much that we can all enjoy. This all happens through a cooperative, very candid interrelationship between the city, the county, and certainly in the state. So like my neighbors, my wife and I experienced the wrath of Irma, from cleanup to a very proactive stormwater and flood mitigation effort, improving our infrastructure. We witnessed Terry, which was very, very challenged, and so on and so forth. But we now use that road almost every day for one reason or another, and it's a great causeway. It's really a best-in-class development, which everybody should be very proud of. Especially important, obviously, is the proximity to the neighborhoods along there, our parks that are along there. Jesse and I have talked about the safety of our kids going now on the new section across to the soccer fields. And if I was younger enough, I'd go out there and try to play with them. That's not going to happen. So the 1.5 miles from Old 41 to the roundabout is done. This is the second phase, the 2.5 miles. And as I tried when I talk to people, it takes patience, it takes time, and it takes money to get these things done. So we're very appreciative for everybody's work on this. And Ellie, thank you for doing the heavy lifting on this grant. You're the hero in all of this stuff like this. Thank you to the city for the $5 million from the general fund that they put in. Along with this is how things happen. Governor, your leadership, commitment to our community, our waters, public safety, and most importantly, our citizens is greatly appreciated. Our very best to you and your family, and thank you from all of us.
And to our country.
What's that?
And to our country.
Oh, yeah, of course. Of course. So good. Well, you guys got it. It's going to be high impact, and like I said, there's going to be more that we're going to be doing, both from our job growth grant fund, some of the stuff that we're still going to use for long-term recovery, and then whatever we end up with in the next legislative session will have big impacts. But Ray had mentioned just how happy that they are that they've been here for a long time. It's amazing the people that are coming, like how much happier they are to be able to be in Florida, but particularly I would say this part of Florida, people really love it, and very few of them ever look back once they come down here. And so I think that's just a testament to being blessed to have a great state, but also to have a strong community down here in Southwest Florida. So we appreciate that. Okay, we're happy to take any questions. Yes, ma'am.
Governor DeSantis, lead health officials held a press conference yesterday talking about the Omicron surge. They said they're really overwhelmed with patients. Yes, they're not as sick as they were before, but the hospital system has more than 300 employees who are out sick or isolating because they were exposed. The state had a plan before to help hospitals. Is there still one now?
In terms of being exposed, I mean, look, that's a decision that they're having to make. I mean, our view is make it, do not send people home who are healthy. I mean, I don't know if that's what they're doing, but I think if you talk to Surgeon General Latipo, he's really stressed symptoms-based approach to this. The fact of the matter is, I mean, Omicron is something that is so contagious that it's something that is it comes in waves. And you're seeing the places in Florida that got hit initially, have started to, I think you'll see a downturn on that very soon. But you need people there, and so we don't want to send healthy people home. So that's I think that would be our our view on it. It's interesting. There's parts of the country where they fired a lot of nurses because of they didn't do the shots or whatever, and now they're shorthanded. They're actually bringing back COVID positive nurses to work. When you had some who are not COVID positive and likely have had COVID, they got fired, and so that's we provided protections. We'll see what the Supreme Court does on the CMS, but we thought that was very important to have all hands on deck so that you're not short-staffed.
Are there any resources you can provide in the meantime to assist those hospitals?
In terms of us providing nurses?
Staffing?
Well, look, they've, I mean, I think our view was we did that at the outset because we kind of got caught, but, there's a whole, all these hospitals have the ability to be able to bring in, I mean, it's expensive because there's a huge demand for it, but that's something that a lot of them have planned for and have been able to do. We don't have necessarily people like that are on the state payroll for that. What we did initially was just have the same type of contracts that a lot of the hospital systems have now.
Governor, we've confirmed that the FDA sent you a letter extending the shelf life of 1 million COVID tests. Wondering what will be done with them. We've talked to one Cape Coral Medical Center who could really use those tests.
So I think it's important on the old Abbott test, because this has been, I think, reported in ways that are inaccurate. The federal government promised all these tests, right? They said at-home tests, all this other stuff. Well, nothing was happening. And so we had a situation, there was a huge demand for testing. We also, though, in Florida said, people don't need to be running to the emergency room who are healthy to try to get a test. We really want to focus on people who are higher risk. And so we were able, it wasn't easy, we were able to procure a lot of those at-home tests. And those have, so long-term care, we focused that. So those have gone out to there. That has nothing to do with those Abbott tests. Those at-home tests, we got off the market. Again, it's not easy to get because there's a huge demand for this. But we felt that because the feds had said they were going to do it and they didn't, that we needed to come fill that void. The Abbott tests were tests from, a while ago. And they basically, Department of Emergency Management sources upon request. The end of the summer, they had expired. The FDA agreed to extend it for 3 months, but those 3 months were almost zero demand in Florida for testing because we had such low COVID prevalence. Then when we got into, then the most recent expiration was December. You started to see more of a demand for tests. The Division of Emergency Management had been asking about the extension for a long time, got no answer. Finally got some answer for it, and so now those are available. So those are going to be sourced just like they would have been had they been authorized. And so different testing centers, different county health, people that want them, going to go. But those are not at-home tests. Those are older Abbott tests. They do not, you can't just send them to people's home. It's literally a box with like 40 tests in it and just one little tube of the solution that you have to put in there. And so they really need to be done by, in a test center, or they need to be done at a county health department or something like that. So those are all going out. But I think the department basically was correct to not send if they may not have been accurate. And so they needed the FDA to be able to say that. It took the FDA a long time, but it takes them a long time to do everything, unfortunately. Those are not at-home tests. The at-home tests that we were able to procure are new. Look, I think there's questions about how accurate some of these instant tests are with Omicron. I don't know definitively. I can't tell you. People have raised questions about whether, what the specificity is compared to how it was previously, but nevertheless, those are out to those high-risk areas, and then the older ones, which are not at-home tests, will be sourced.
Is there any guarantee that those tests that you're mentioning, the ones that the extension was put on, is there any guarantee that those are all going to be used by their expiration date in March?
It's all contingent on demand, and so if there wasn't a lot of them being gone out because people weren't asking for them before. So I can't say that there's a guarantee, but I think that you have a lot higher demand for testing right now. And so my sense is that there's going to be enough requests to at least get a lot of those out the door very, very quickly. But look, at the end of the day, they bought too many. They did have a surplus for a while, and I think that's probably better than to not. But at this point, we have a lot of promises that were made by the federal government on these tests. And look, our testing guidelines that the Surgeon General put on, I think, are very sensible. I think that's where everyone will ultimately end up. When we do these things, we'll get criticized. Oh, how can you send kids to school in summer of 2020? Now everyone says that. How could you do monoclonal antibodies? Now everyone wants monoclonal antibodies. When we came out and said with the testing, when you have something like Omicron, forcing healthy people to do it, to be able to get on a plane or anything like that, that's not the way we've really handled these viruses before, and it's not been effective in this. So we say focus on symptoms and focus on people that are high risk. I think if you do that, you're going to then be able to have very easy access. I think that's where they'll ultimately end up, because I think what they're doing now is just, it's not sustainable to be doing this. I mean, you'll have places, where people are flooding EDs that have very minor symptoms and are very low risk, trying to get COVID tests across the country, and that's not, I think, the proper thing that we want to be advocating for. So that's what we focused on. So that's why we sent it to elderly folks, and we really want to make sure the elderly are able to get it. And we will look to see about these at-home tests. In the meantime, with the feds not coming up, but they have promised all this stuff, and then they are imposing testing mandates on different activities. The OSHA case, we'll see. The Supreme Court hasn't ruled on that stay. I think that they're going to say that it's problematic, but if they don't, they're going to be forcing a lot of businesses to be doing these tests on people that have no symptoms. They're forcing travelers to do a lot of these tests, even if they don't have symptoms. And so you wonder, is that the best use of those resources, given the fact that they haven't been able to produce all the other tests that they would? I would say one thing that is another clear, I think, deficiency was not ramping up more production of treatments for COVID, and particularly monoclonal antibody treatments. We showed in Florida, it's very effective. People say, well, we're not sure how effective it is against Omicron, and it's true. There's not definitive trials saying either way. We've had anecdotal evidence. It's helped people get their symptoms resolved with Omicron. So don't you want that to be an option? What about some of the prophylactic ones that are now on the market? That should really be something that they ramp up attention to. And I know in Florida, HHS will always, when we complain about getting shortchanged, say, oh, well, you guys are using more than other states. But one of the reasons we are is because we've actually provided information and set up infrastructure to help people access this. I was just yesterday, I had a fella come up to me and thank me for monoclonal antibodies. And I was like, well, where did you go to get it? And he said another state. I was like, well, why are you thanking me for that? He's like, because when you started doing those press conferences, I didn't know that there was a treatment for COVID. So then I got, this guy's telling me he got COVID. He starts calling around to doctors in his state. They all said there's no treatment available. He kept calling, finally found someone and said, oh yeah, you can do monoclonal. And he got it, and he was going on a bad road, and then he ended up getting better. So those are just things that, we know that needs to be part of it, especially even though, look, Omicron is much milder. I mean, I think that's really good news. If you look at the clinical profile of what we've seen with Omicron, really good news. More contagious, but definitely less disease burden. So that's great. But you still have vulnerable people who may need some of this treatment. So we think it's important to be able to do that, and ramping that up and really making that a priority would have been wise once we saw that this was something that the Sun Belt states were using, because they made it sound like that wave was like somehow because these are the wrong policies. Well, now you see huge wave in the north, and that's seasonal, and we knew that was going to happen. So they had the opportunity to prepare for it. I'm not sure that they did, but now to be able to do that and have that, we don't know what'll happen in the spring or next summer. That's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. And I've said we will do some of this on our own if these companies would be able to deal directly with the state of Florida. They all have exclusive deals with the feds, and I understand that, but we would like to be able to do that if we could. Yes?
Governor DeSantis, a bill was filed yesterday that would ban abortion after 15 weeks. Do you support that bill, and would you sign it?
I have not seen that particular one, but I obviously I'm supportive of 15 weeks. I mean, I think that's very reasonable, and I think that's very consistent with with being supportive of protecting life. So we'll work with them as they kind of get through that process. But I think that that'll be something that we will be able to sign, and I think a lot of people will be very happy with that. Okay, we'll see you guys.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.